hard cut or anything like that.
No one's paying us, so we're not happy.
Exactly.
We can say whatever we want.
Exactly. We're beholden to no one.
Yes. Oh no, Phil!
He just disappeared like halfway through that.
I love it. We're beholden to no one. It just logs off.
Shut up. The gods were like, absolutely not. You are beholden to us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Pot of the Seven Kingdoms, a journey through the Dunk and Egg novellas. I am Baki Balboa.
I am Belok, and we have a friend, our first friend.
A very special guest.
Our very special guest, Feli.
Hello, I'm Feli. For listening.
We found Feli on TikTok, and we're going to talk more about Nettles later in the episode. But I saw Feli your recent video doing some analysis about Nettles, and I watched it, and I messaged Phil right away, and I was like, "Get her on the podcast! Like, we need, like, please tell me she follows you. Like, we've got to get her on. This is fantastic." And I have been stalking your TikTok page since then. So thank you for all of your content.
Thank you. I try to rant as much as possible.
I was trying to remember too. I want to say that the first time we interacted was maybe in one of my lives, like way back.
I think so, yeah.
And then you started making videos like maybe more recently or more consistently recently.
Yeah.
I guess maybe, is that fair to say? But I think like your the thing that's always struck me is like how thoughtful you are about the series, and obviously like you've now connected with a lot of the different like creators on I guess A Song of Ice and Fire TikTok, and there's been a lot of I don't know, our mutuals now, like there's this like network of book folks that are now like that's been built,
the Weirwood Network.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the Weirwood Network. Oh, Rhaena, I love that. It's fantastic.
Wait a minute.
Write that down.
Yeah. Write that shit down. Make a group chat right now. Wait, while we're talking about TikTok, Feli, do you want to tell everyone what your TikTok is if people want to watch your stuff?
Yes, I also need to look at it because I'm like, what is my name? I keep changing it.
That's fair.
We've all been through that.
Yep.
Okay, my TikTok is at Belladonnafeli. And then my Twitter is also Belladonnafeli, and like it's the same everywhere. That on TikTok, on Twitter. The only thing that's different is that my Tumblr is Hermosa Vida, GG. It's like Hermosa Vida. I'll say it for the white people, Hermosa Vida, like that.
Thank you. I needed that. Do you still tumble? I don't really tumble as much anymore.
I use it mostly to like. Because there's a lot of good analysis on the Song of Ice and Fire there. I first had it when I was like a kid and I was like really into One Direction. Like that's where I was at.
Fair.
But now I just use it to like reblog art, look at what people are talking about. The art there is amazing for Song of Ice and Fire. Like it's just like loads and loads of art.
Did you ever follow back in the day Game of Thrones Gifts and Musings or The Cultural Vacuum?
No, because when I had my Tumblr, like I only got into Song of Ice and Fire like pretty recently, so like my Tumblr was also just like I was like a stan of like K-pop before K-pop was popular, so like that was what I was doing.
Nice. That's where I originally found the Song of Ice and Fire community was through Tumblr, through like essays written on Tumblr. Anyway, so yeah, people out there, if you want to go follow Feli, you should, and then you can hear more analysis. So the next thing we're gonna do is, Feli, why don't you tell everyone your experience with the Song of Ice and Fire? You were just mentioning you got into it recently. What have you read? What have you seen? Like, what's your experience?
So when it was coming out, the show, my sister was watching it and she was obsessed with it and she was begging me to watch it all the time. And I said, no, I'm not going to watch it because you want me to watch it and I won't do that. I'm not going to bend to your whim. So the entirety that it was going on, I never watched it. Even when the show ended, I was like, I'm not watching it. And then once the show ended and had that bad ending, I was like, see, that's why I didn't watch it, because I knew in the back of my mind maybe it would have been bad. That wasn't true though. I was just like, I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to give my sister the satisfaction. And then eventually, maybe like around, it was a little bit after COVID, I think, or maybe earlier. And I was with my sister, because I remember this because we didn't live together at the time. And I was like, I want to watch Game of Thrones. So she was like, what? She turned it on immediately and I watched everything. And then I watched like, I got to the point where I was watching it without her, which made her really upset. She was like, how could you do this to me? Because I watched the final season without her and she was like, why would you do that? And I was like, I'm sorry, I have to. And I remember being so upset when I saw season 8 and I saw how many episodes there were, and I was like, this is not going to go good. I'm terrified. I know it's going to be bad. Anyway, I watched it and I was like, I'm upset. And then I like took a break because I was so upset for like a couple of months. And then I was like, oh, I should just read the books, because I usually will watch a show and then like read whatever book it was adapted from. So then I got the books and I read up until like A Storm of Swords, and then I had like a bad reading funk, and then I started reading it again. And then I read because on my Twitter, like it's like a thread that I have of like the commentary and like me highlighting stuff. And then I finished the books, and then I started reading the Duncan Egg novellas, and then I read because I had it on my phone and I had the physical copies, and then I read The World of Ice and Fire, and then I read Fire and Blood. I think that's the order I did. And I was like, okay, I'm like cooked. But I had nobody to talk about it to except for my sister. My sister didn't read the book, so I'm like talking about shit that she doesn't know. I'm like, where do I go? And my Twitter at the time was like mostly for anime, and like nobody really gave a shit about anime. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go on Tumblr and look stuff up. And then I was on TikTok liking videos and watching videos of Song of Ice and Fire. And I'm like, well, why don't I just like make stuff? Because I was afraid to put my face out there and like have people see my opinions. But I'm like, well, nobody's talking about what I want to talk about, so I want to talk about it. So I just made videos. And then eventually, like, I guess my following grew because I was really good at yapping about stuff.
Yes. No, you are. You're excellent at yapping about stuff.
Yeah.
And people want to hear your thoughts. That's awesome. So you've actually read a little bit more than I have, because as of this moment with the novellas, I've only read the first. So I haven't I know what happens, like the big set pieces in the second 2 novellas, but I have not actually read them. Which is why, like our podcast that Philip, what we normally do with the reading is, I'm starting our next season. I'm going to start being really surprised as we go through it.
And spoiler free for anyone finding the podcast. Yes. You can read along spoiler free, which is fun.
Yes. But we should warn people, this episode, very many spoilers. So many spoilers.
Yes.
Basically anything for the book, anything for the show, anything like any book. It's all on the table. This is theory discussion. Yes. We're diving deep. Family, trees, like everything is on the table.
Yes. Weirwood Network is coming together.
Yes. Yes.
You're going to see it all opening your third crow's eye.
Yes. Oh,
I have a theory about that too. Oh my god, I should have wrote that down in the doc. But
I have a theory about the Weirwood tree smiles, but we could talk about that at the end.
Yeah.
That one's short. So the first thing we want to talk about substantively was actually Duncan Egg related, which is in the first novella, which is talking about the family members, particularly the 2 generations of 4 Targaryen sons that we have and their relations to each other, because it's really interesting. And actually, Feli, I think you had a TikTok about this, that so much of A Song of Ice and Fire is the relationship between siblings and how siblings interact with each other.
Absolutely.
And it super totally is, and especially so for these very many Targaryen princelings. Too many princelings.
Too many dragons.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, too many princelings in the castle. Is there a phrase? I don't know.
I was gonna say, I think it's our last episode, Belak, where you said like there's just too many boys in this.
There are. I got them confused the whole time we were reading this book. I was like Aerion, Aegon, Aerys, Baelor. I don't know. There's too many boys, and
I think what helps is that like I have this one. I have like the graphic novel, which is like it has really cool art, and I'm like, oh, I see people's faces. Awesome.
There's some art in this one, but not enough for my tiny brain to keep track of all the names.
I do think with these with these groups of brothers, I think George started with the idea of he loved the idea of like, what if the king came from the 4th son of a 4th son, right? Like, and then how do I make that happen? And so we get these like these sort of mirrored or foiled like families of 4 brothers in 2 generations of Daeron's line. So yeah, Feli, interested to hear your thoughts on like, I mean, because obviously we get sort of the highs of these families with Fear, Aemon, Maester Aemon, like in a couple of generations, but we also get Aerion, Bright Flame.
Yeah. I feel like, well, I really like that you can tell like George kind of does things that he's comfortable with and he's similar with. Like Maekar is genuinely like Stannis if he had a good brother. Like if Robert Baratheon was like Baelor Breakspear, I think Stannis would be like a much better person, have a better outlook on life. But I was thinking about how their like sibling order can like affect your relationship with the sibling. And I don't know why I thought like Maekar was like a middle child or like older, but he's actually like the youngest of all of them. And I'm like, it's very weird for me to think of him as like the baby of the family. And he is. And I can kind of see that when I think of Baelor and Maekar, and like he's the older brother that like everybody looks up to. He's perfect. Everybody wants to be like him. He's amazing. And you're like the younger sibling that like maybe you got doted on because you're like the baby, but like you're kind of being like ignored in a sense because of like how much of a star your older brother is and how that can like sort of feed into resentment. I feel like I understand that because like I'm the youngest and I have an older sister, and like she's kind of like a star in a sense, like she's very like successful, and I'm like, growing up I was like, oh, I want to be like her. I want to do all the things that she does, and I would try to copy the things that she does, and I would get like in like this zone of like try like when you're trying to be somebody that you're not, you're trying to emulate your sibling, you kind of like you're taking their good traits and you're also resenting them a bit because like, well, why can't I be like you? Why can't I get the attention that you get? And it's like you're psyching yourself out. You're important too. You're just not seeing it the way you need to be seeing it.
And I think that's a really interesting angle to think about it. And also on top of that, the fact that because of the feudalism they live in and the patriarchy they live in, Maekar can never be as good as Baelor because Baelor will always be the crown prince.
Yeah.
And Maekar will never be the crown prince and he'll never be king. So there's like that tension sort of similar to Viserys and Daemon that we see in House of the Dragon and in Fire and Blood. Like the second son syndrome, or in this case, fourth son syndrome of being, wanting to be that older sibling who is so good. And no matter how hard he tries, he could never be. Because he'll never be in that position of power. He'll always be subjugated to his brother. And like that kind of tension. And you're right. George does that a lot with brothers. Come to think of it.
Yeah, like he does like a lot of things that are like, that's why I feel like it's really, well, analysis is always really fun. But like, because he's written so much, you kind of like notice patterns in his writing. So like certain, like the whole thing with siblings, I realized that like randomly when somebody commented like about, I was talking about how Aegon and Rhaenyra don't have any like interactions like that. And then someone commented like, they were talking about how like, because they have an age gap, that's why they don't interact that much. And I was like, that's dumb. I have an age gap with my sister. And then someone commented, well, Stannis and Renly have an age gap too. And like, they don't have POVs and they have interactions and it makes sense. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. So I'm like, well, thinking like, well, I feel like I lost my train of thought.
No, it's good. It's like the fact that he has these patterns that I think he's interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the siblings, like particularly like it's an interesting way to look at like the dynamics of like why, because I think a lot of George's writing is about why like feudalism is not fun. Like it's actually bad to have a monarch. We're not romanticizing the monarchy over here. And looking at the way that these people who should be in the highest position of privilege, they're Targaryen princes. How much higher can you go? And the only higher you can go is the thing your brother has that you can never have.
It sort of like naturally pits that like all of these brothers against each other, like despite the fact that they do have this sort of innate, and maybe it is just, the human nature sort of care for each other. Like that's their initial instinct, but they almost battle against it because of the system that exists. And so I was thinking, because you were talking through the sort of aspirational aspect of like Maekar to Baelor, because I think that makes total sense in terms of watching a guy like Baelor Breakspear grow up and get showered with like admiration and all that stuff. It's like, I want to be like him. And whereas like Maekar's sons, Daeron's the oldest, right? Like, am I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote them in the doc, so I would not get confused. So yes, Daeron is the oldest.
So the Daeron one is interesting because in Maekar's family, you almost have the maybe similar to a Viserys Daemon, but maybe even a more extreme version of it, where you have Daeron and then Aerion, and Aerion has this like deep sort of inferiority complex where he definitely feels that he should be the heir. He's the more competent. He's the more, and like in many ways he is like right, I guess, like in the strictest sense, because Daeron does kind of suck.
I would submit that Aerion sucks more. I would say.
No,
they suck for different reasons. Like,
from a strictly, if we're talking about it like from the societal sort of perspective, like Aerion is a good fighter and is like has like all these things going for it. He's sort of like classically Targaryen prince, all this sort of things that he's like incentivized to be good at or to value or whatever. And so he's got that sort of approach where Daeron is not aspirational, and it's this sort of constantly trying to prove that essentially that there should actually be a meritocracy, and I deserve more than my brother and only because he was born first. Like, is he in line to inherit anything? I just think it's interesting about Maekar's sons where he doesn't produce the same sort of aspirational, like brotherly feelings from the old, but rather it actually kind of happens further down the line where it becomes like Aemon and Aegon, who are the two who are more closely bonded, and maybe Egg sees Aemon as like aspirational versus his older brothers.
Yeah. It was actually making me think about what was it with Bael? Like when you think about Daeron and how he has, Daeron the good, not Daeron the drunken, Daeron the good.
Sure.
I had to clarify. There's so many of the same names. Where he has
this
like
is why Baelor. I get them confused. There's too many boys.
I remember all the Daerons though, because I feel like I like every single Daeron. I don't know why. There's Daeron, and then he has like Baelor, then Aerys, then Rhaegal, and then Maekar. Yes. And it makes me think about how Maekar kind of, it's a little bit the same the way he has kids. Like he's married to a Dornish woman, and his first kid has Dornish features the same way his older brother, who's the eldest, has Dornish features. And then like the rest of the siblings look Targaryen, just like his own family. So it's like a repeating of the same thing, but also his kids are like kind of worse. Not kind of, they kind of just are worse. Like Daeron is like, Daeron the drunken, like, he's drunk. Also like the dragon dreams, I'd probably be a drunk too. Aerion or Aaron, the Aarons of the Targaryens kill me. He's a terrible person. I feel like he's like if Viserys got to live in the. Now I have to really clarify. Oh my god, everybody has the same name. I'm just realizing this. Viserys, Daenerys' brother.
Viserys the third. The beggar king.
Yes.
If he actually got to like live in King's Landing, I feel like that's kind of how he would be. But like maybe not as bad, I feel like, because I don't know.
Viserys is such a tough character to analyze because it's like, is he like this because he's like removed from what he sees as his own and he's just so like jaded and embittered about like what happened? Or was he always like sort of a psychopath who like was put into rough circumstances and just it showed his like true nature?
Or maybe like his rough circumstances exacerbated his like already shit personality. Like maybe it would have been better if he was raised by his mom and like she lived and like he didn't like have to be on the run all the time, worrying if he's gonna get murdered. Can I eat? People are laughing at me. I had to sell all my stuff. Like I would too. Like I understand when Daenerys is like, I too would have went crazy if I was him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Daenerys didn't go crazy though, and she was also him. She was with him during all of that. He had the additional layer, I think, of all of that humiliation being different for a man in the patriarchy than a woman.
Yeah,
and like that's just present, ever present with all these characters, for sure. Looking at the brothers, do you think it's like? I think it's kind of interesting to compare them kind of like one to one, like Baelor to Daeron, Aerys to Aerion, Rhaegal to Aemon, Maekar to Aegon. Like, I think there's something there analysis wise that like because Feli, like you were saying before, like the order of their birth sort of affecting who they become. Like the fact that we have like Baelor to Daeron, for example, And we see quite a lot of them in the first novella too, both of those characters. Well, we see all of Baelor in the first novella, I guess. But
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
legend.
The best man. He's fine. He just walked off camera. He's okay.
Yeah, like it was a fake out. He'll come back.
Exactly. Like Baelor is written as so competent and kind, and like not classist. That's like a lot of what we talked about throughout the story, was that he treats Dunk with respect and fights for Dunk and all these things. Whereas Daeron is like too afraid to fight. Daeron's like, I'm going to pretend to die. I'm going to pretend to I'm just going to fall off my horse. Just don't hit me, please.
He's such a failure.
Yeah.
Such a failure.
And it even is a little bit worse. And I think I went kind of in on Daeron, like in our actual, like when we were reading the book, because when he goes to Dunk and is like, hey, remember how I had that dream about like a dragon falling on you and you lived and the dragon was dead. Just make sure that the dragon is Aerion that dies. Cause he sucks. I have to fight on his side. You get it, right? Like I have to fight with him. I can't not fight with Aerion, but if you would be so kind as to kill him, please. It's just like beyond cowardly. So I do think there is something there though, Belak, from what you're saying of like the Baelor. It couldn't be further away in terms of just how they approach their privilege and like their position as like the heir within their family and all that stuff. And Baelor takes it extremely seriously and all this stuff. And Daeron sort of hides from it, like, for all of the reasons that, he is this like tortured soul and all that sort of stuff. And like, he does not face it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas Baelor takes stuff kind of head on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who was the studious one of the Ares? Okay, because I was thinking like, because Rhaegal is sickly, that's like all we know about.
His thing is like he's like sickly and like they called him like mad, but like the mad thing that he did was like run around King's Landing, like the Red Keep like naked, which is like I don't really know how much madness that is. But they also call him like they also call him gentle. Like when they're comparing him to Maekar, they're like, oh, he's gentle. So it's like maybe he was just like, I don't know, like he didn't fit the standard of what it means to be a man. So there's like, oh, he's mad and he's gentle. He sucks.
Yeah. They're like, this guy is so weird. He doesn't want to marry his sister and he doesn't want to swing a sword. That's very strange.
Terrible.
Yeah.
God forbid a guy goes skinny dipping. Now he's crazy.
Yeah. I bet that was it. He was probably just taking like a bath or something.
I know,
and
right?
Like something happened, like a cat ran by and he had to chase it. I don't know.
Maybe just dared him. Maybe he had a dare and now he had to run around the Red Keep naked and now people think he's crazy. Like
I thought wandering into the Kingswood and with one Kingsguard and floating in a pond for a while was like a metaphor for self-discovery or whatever. Like, isn't that what House of the Dragon? I thought that's what House of the Dragon taught me.
Yes. I forgot that that's what he was doing.
He was self-actualizing.
He was self-actualizing.
He was reaching his nirvana.
Yeah. So no, but I do think because I was thinking we have, and maybe it's not one-to-one in terms of birth order, but I would say the Ares and Aemon, like we've got the AE names, the studious ones. But Aemon is like a very specific sort of dedicated sort of studious that ends up in a more like service sort of like where it's like, I'm going to dedicate my life to service and all of this stuff. And I know that there's a much bigger analysis to be done of Maester Aemon and the fact that he chose like basically exile, like just just short of exile over being king, right? Like that when he had that opportunity. So I think there might be something there, but the studiousness like running through, and like you get these sort of in not in sequence, but sort of randomly throughout these, you get the like some great warriors, some like very smart people, some very whatever, but there is like talent, I guess. Yeah. And some of them get to explore it, or some of them get to like realize their potential, and others don't. Like they don't get to sort of whatever their talent is, whatever their passion is, whatever, like they are stopped short of it for whatever reason.
I wonder if with Ares it's birth order because he's the second son, and like if you have two sons, you kind of have to keep the second one around in case something happens to the first one.
True.
So it's like you can't as easily be like, go be a maester. Whereas Aemon being the third son, after there's already all these other sons in line, it's like, go do something. I mean, they run out of stuff for them to do so bad that they let Egg be squire to some guy. You know?
But also like, but it's also like they also have like sisters, so like it's like way more than like. So I think somebody was it Makar who said that like it wasn't him that decided for Aemon to be a maester. It was his father Daeron because he's like too many dragons is just as bad as like too little. He's like we need to. It's too many of y'all. One of you guys needs to go to the Citadel.
There's too many boys. This is what I'm saying.
He's like it's too many. It's gonna be a bad thing.
He's taking the bunk beds out of the like.
Yeah, the Targaryen princes definitely sleep in bunk beds together.
Yes.
The crown prince has his own room. All the Targaryens bunk beds. Don't worry, they're exceptional bunk beds, so it's fine.
I think the one thing that always stuck out to me though is just like Aryen's treatment of Aegon, whereas like Makar seemingly, despite being the youngest, like. And he has this like edge to him or whatever, but it's not explicitly said, I don't think ever that like, you know, he was abused at any point by his older brothers. And I find it hard to believe that obviously Baelor, we don't think based on his characterization is doing anything crazy. And the way the others are described, like it doesn't seem like they would have messed with Makar. Whereas like Aegon is obviously subjected to like physical and like sexual abuse at the hands of Arion. Which is a whole other sort of like second board dynamic where he decides to take it out on his younger brother rather than letting his younger brother like see him as a, you know, someone to
idolize,
aspire to be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the toxic masculinity of Westeros. You know, the needing to dominate or thinking you need to dominate to be a man, and Arion doing that in every way he can, basically.
Yeah. It does also make me think of with Makar, I'm thinking about how in the Feast for Crows when you get Sam's chapters in it's like Mr. Aemon's like last moments and he's talking about his father and he's saying like him becoming king was like he saw it as a punishment for what he did to his brother. And I'm like I feel like imagine if like it was Arion and he like he became king because his brother died. He would not be like, oh, this is a punishment. He'd be like, fuck yes, this is awesome. I'm hyped. But Makar was like, I'm so depressed. I cannot like becoming king like this. Like this is not. I can imagine like I think he really, really loves his brothers and all of them because I think there's I don't know which novella it is, but there's one where like Egg gets really, really mad that somebody suggests that Makar is going to kill like his other siblings and he gets pissed. He's like, he would never do that. He loves him. So to me, it's like, oh, he probably had like a really deep love, which I think it makes sense because Daeron the Good was probably a good dad compared to his own father. And like his mother was probably a good mother as well. And I feel like it's so sad in a way that like, I don't know, like project my thoughts onto Makar, but like, it must be sad for him to be like, I have such a good relationship with my siblings. Whereas my kids, like, they don't really like fuck with each other and they kind of suck except for like two of them. And probably my daughters were cool, but like my sons kind of suck.
Well, and he even has a moment like that moment in the at Ashford with Baelor when Dunk sort of first stumbles into the main plot. Makar is talking about the fact that Egg and Daeron are missing, and it does like through his, you know, he never explicitly says anything about it, but like the way that he's talking sort of suggests that he is like trying to cover up the fact that he is like really embarrassed about like how his sons are like showing up and how his, you know, and that they're not sort of taking this as seriously as he would want, and he's not able to project the same sort of, you know, he's like, whereas Baelor's sons are all out there on the tourney field and they're nice, you know, they're nice armor, they're all looking very princely and they're, you know, chivalrous, etc., etc. And he's like trying to be like his older brother and
the kids are not
have the same family, and his kids are like not living up, and he doesn't really know what to do about it. I feel like he's like, he doesn't really know how to address it in the same way.
Okay. he can't put them in timeout. You know, it can't be like
Yeah, they're like
Go-
adults, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're Targaryen princes too. So it's like, what are you going to punish them by doing what? You know.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, their mother, she's a Dane. I think her name is Diana Dane. And like,
Mhm.
I wonder what she obviously died when Egg is like young because she's dead when the story starts. But I'm like, what was like going on? Like, what was she doing? Like, I'm not blaming her. Like, she's not the reason her children ended up kind of messed up. Like, I think that was just par for the core of being a Targaryen.
Yeah.
But like, I wonder like what was her dynamic, and I think maybe we'll get this in like Fire and Blood Part 2. I think he's gonna call it Blood and Fire, which is like
stupid. Yeah.
Stupid, but also like it makes me think about the Blackfire sigil. I'm like, Damon Blackfire is not good at graphic design. It's just like the inverse colors.
Yeah, you just flip it. Like
Yeah.
paint
Yeah.
bucket,
I have
paint
ignore the
bucket,
words
red.
ignore the words Game of Thrones on mine. We don't like the bad show, but look at the Targaryen banner.
Yeah, it's like
We've got both.
I mean, I think so. So that's this minor side tangent. I've been doing a podcast with my friend Gretchen called House of Fire and Blood, where we've been like deeply analyzing Fire and Blood, like 5 to 10 pages at a time. It's quite a heavy lift, but we're like 2/3 of the way through the book. And one thing we've noticed is that Targaryen women pretty precipitously lose power as the generations proceed. Because you go from like the conquerors who were like in all facts, like Visenya was ruling Westeros. So, and like it's pretty much on the page in Fire and Blood. And then just like 3 generations later, I think you're at like Rhaena, the oldest sister, not even being considered to be queen, and like Jaehaerys being given, you know, like they, as soon as they come into the society of toxic patriarchy, feudalism, Westeros, their power just like disintegrates. And particularly after the dragons are lost. Yeah,
it really goes
like,
down.
Yeah, it goes like super nosedive. So what was their mother doing? What was Diana Dane doing?
I assume she was nice though.
Yeah. I assume so. What was she doing? Asked no maester ever. You know, like nobody ever cared.
Like
they're like, that's none of my business.
What I do find absolutely hilarious is that I love that all of the siblings hate Aerion, but even like in A Feast for Crows, when Maester Aemon is literally like dying, he's naming all of his siblings that he's going to see in heaven, and he does not mention Aerion. He's like, I'm losing my memory. I have dementia. I'm dying, but I do not want to bring up that guy. He sucks.
Yeah. I'm not seeing that guy in heaven. He's definitely not there.
I'm trying to names all of them except
people. I was gonna say the only people who talk about Aerion are Jaime when he's telling Brienne about when he killed Aerys. Because he's talking about wildfire and pyromancers and all that stuff. So it has not like he only uses his name as a like remember the psycho who drank wildfire. Like that's it. Right. Like Aerys reminded me of that guy. And then I'm trying to think like even mentions in the main series, like they're very sparse, I would say, in those last 2 books, because I think he wrote the Hedge Knight around Storm. I think
it was around that time.
So by the time like Feast and Dance came out, like it was fully sort of fleshed out, like Egg's like family and everything. But anyways, I say all that just to say, he doesn't even get like amongst the Targaryens, even he is simply like a cautionary tale. Like he's not even
don't be that guy. Okay.
Yeah. He's like barely a real person by the time like it's been 100 years and he's like a folktale basically.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, Targaryens are sometimes bad. We flip a coin and sometimes they're mad. And then there's Aerion. Totally different. He's not even on this coin.
he's another level.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of the brothers and like their relationships to each other, besides like birth order, do we, like we were mentioning before, like some of the brothers have like different appearances because they have Dornish moms.
Yeah.
And then some look quote unquote Targaryen. Yeah. Whatever that means, you know, which
just white hair, purple eyes. That's
what the society is like. This must be a pure Targaryen because blonde hair, purple eyes, clearly pure Targaryen.
And if you have one or the other, then like you can like maneuver it. Like if you have brown hair but you have purple eyes, okay, we'll allow it. Or you have white hair but like blue eyes, we'll allow it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, characters like Alysanne, who was like was like a pure Targaryen, had like honey blonde hair and blue eyes. But
yeah,
people just don't pay attention.
Was her mom like a Velaryon? But like they're always intermarried, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. So I found it really interesting in the text. I didn't know that Baelor Breakspear until I didn't realize until we were doing this reread that he had dark hair and dark eyes, I think, too. Or did he have purple eyes? I forget now.
I think he looks very Dornish, like dark hair, dark eyes.
I wonder how if that affected how his brothers who looked quote unquote Targaryen viewed him. Like if they thought of him, like if Aerion, for example, thought of him as less legitimate because he didn't look magic, basically. You know, he didn't look like a magic elf, more or less. Yeah. And if that was part of the resentment.
I think so, but I also think like it could be maybe Baelor, like, because he's not stupid. He probably knew like people think I look too Dornish. So he kind of like makes up for it in like every other single aspect. Like he's kind of perfect at everything. And I feel like he probably strived to be perfect at everything because he knows like people are going to like immediately doubt me because like one, they fucking hate the Dornish. Can I curse? I feel like I've been cursing.
You can curse. We've been cursing.
People are like, the whole Blackfire Rebellions are just like, just anti-Dornish, anti-Dornish racism, pro-toxic masculinity. Also, we hate women. That's like literally their entire cause, which is like, I just think it's like hilarious. It's just so funny to me that what's that guy's name? He's like, they're like, oh, can you believe that Daeron, like he has women in the court, he has Dornish men, he has scholars, and like, but what's his name? Daemon? Yeah, there's like too many names. Daemon, like, but he has a 6-pack and he has a sword. So have you considered that? Also, he looks Targaryen, which I find so funny because Daeron also looks Targaryen. He just has like a pot belly. So like, God forbid you have a dad bod in Westeros, you're finished.
No dad bods allowed in Westeros. Well, I wonder too with Baelor, like one of the things he has going for him is that he seems to be well liked by the small folk. Like he seems to be someone who, and part of that's because of his behavior. I mean, standing up for Dunk, for example, you know, fighting on Dunk's side for the righteous side there. And I wonder if the small folk also maybe consciously or subconsciously, I don't know, sort of relate to him more because he looks more like them instead of looking like, you know, magic. Again, like that's what they look like, a fantasy elf, basically. And I wonder if that's part of it, like part of, because I think you're absolutely right that he probably grew up understanding that he didn't look like he was expected to look as the Targaryen crown prince, and just like checked every other box. Yeah. He said, I don't got the blonde or the purple, but I have good sword, polite, nice to small folk, save the weak, you know, all the other knighthood, all the other stuff I can do. And that'll make up for it. And it does seem to. Yeah. And I'm sure when he comes back next time, he'll
exactly. He's gonna be revived. Melisandre's gonna show up in the series in like the next couple Duncan Egg novellas. She's gonna revive him, and then he's gonna be
give him a hair. She's gonna give him a haircut, and then she's gonna go shh, 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 and he's gonna wake up right in episode 2 of the season. Okay, I got it.
She might have to burn some trees and people, but we are willing to make that sacrifice for Baelor Breakspear to come back. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think like you would talk about that, and we did talk throughout the season about what we wanted to see in the adaptation, because we know adaptations don't always go the way that we want.
What?
So
what makes you say that, Phil?
We joked on more than one occasion about how are they going to get the dagger at the tourney at Ashford.
If I see that dagger, I'm going to lose my mind. Please burn this. What is it? I don't even understand why. What does this even mean? Why do they need a dagger?
It is a song of ice and fire.
Yeah, it's Aegon had a dream and he said, quick, grab me a dagger and a pen. I got to write this shit down.
Why would he do that? Oh my God.
And it's also like the One Ring somehow, where you can only see the message under heat. So.
don't mention the other IP. Don't mention the other IP. It's
mention
you
Lord of the
can't
Rings.
you can't copyright an idea. It's fine. It's not. They can't sue.
Amazon Prime is on the hunt now.
Yeah.
But so adaptations don't always go the direction that you want. And so the famous one that we've been talking about recently, and I know we are like pivoting here a little bit, but
Yes.
talking about House of the Dragon, and as we get ready for potentially, you know, another of the Seven Kingdoms, if that ever actually does hit our screens, but the big talking point right now, and I inadvertently waded into this today. This was not planned, I don't think. Like, this was not some stupid ass cross promotion or something. But I waded into the Nettles discourse today, and it's looking like, based on some of the leaks that are on Twitter, talking about Phoebe Campbell, who's the actress who plays Rhaena Targaryen, so Daemon's daughter, like in the show, in some sheepskins and got some burnt hair, that sort of stuff.
Oh my God.
It's looking like maybe they're just gonna not only give Rhaena Nettles' story, but make Nettles Rhaena in disguise. Bom bom bom. So
wow,
I hate it so much.
Every time I think about it, I literally screenshotted something because I screenshotted about Rhaena's life in the Vale, and I'm like, oh man, I think about this all the time, and every time I rant about it, I remember something new. That's why I keep ranting about it. Okay, to make Rhaena and Nettles have the same, like, to combine their plot lines is like so racist to me because it's it's racist to me because they have nothing in common whatsoever in the text other than the fact that show Rhaena is black, and like that's it. They're like, I'm gonna read what Rhaena's life is like. It says, in the Vale, Rhaena had enjoyed a life of comfort and privilege as Lady Jane's ward. Maids had brushed her hair and drawn her baths, while singers composed odes to her beauty and knights jousted for her favor. Mind you, Nettles is like some small folk with just doing Pavlov's dog with the dragon.
She said, I know animal husbandry, and she husbanded that animal.
And
she's fighting in the goddamn war. Like
it's such a different, like, they have nothing in common. Because you could, if it was like, if they had a very similar personality type, I would be like, okay. But even then, I would be like, no, still. But I'm like, they have nothing in common. And I said it in my video, in one of my videos, where like, it is a very half-assed race swap for multiple reasons. One, because they didn't go all the way. Like, if you're gonna make the Velaryons black, you have to make the Targaryens mixed now, because at that point in history, they really only marry like Velaryons. Like Jaehaerys, isn't his mother a Velaryon?
Yeah, Jaehaerys and Alysanne's mother was Alyssa Velaryon, so they were half Velaryon. The whole, we'll talk about blood purity. I'm sorry, continue.
But like if they get married and like their brother and sister, that means that their kids are also going to be mixed race, and then their kids get married each other and they're mixed race. Like, basically, they should look way more mixed than they actually do in the show, the Targaryens, but they don't, because it's half-assed, and it's just like, it really feels like a here damn type of thing. Like, damn, here's some fucking black people.
That is what HBO said. HBO said, look at our diversity. Aren't we so diverse?
And they're like, look at all these Velaryons. We don't need to have Nettles. We have enough black people. That's the quota. You get Baela, Rhaena, Corlys, and then the two other guys, I'm forgetting their names. You have 5 black people. Everybody shut up. Adam and Alan, that's it. Everybody shut up. Also, that one guy who died, which I was thinking about that recently, who like called Rhaenyra a whore. And he was like upset about his claim.
Vaemond, yeah.
Vaemond. I was thinking about that scene again, and I'm like, wait, this actually is bad that they made him black, because it makes it way worse, because now it just looks like a black man's claim has been taken by a white woman and her children that it doesn't belong to. Like, why?
Yes,
they didn't think about that.
Oh my god, I thought the same thing.
And they murdered him for being right. Like what the fuck?
And then they have a scene. They have a very graphic scene after that where they're like sewing his head back onto his body for his funeral. And it's like one of the few times I've critiqued the show for being like too gory. Like, I thought that was an unnecessary, like overly gory scene. Like, you don't actually.
They also they had him decapitated in a very weird way, because like
got sliced.
because they had to slice above his tongue, so he ends up getting like his head sliced in half, like which is obviously like not a typical decapitation, even like for how these shows are filmed and things like that. So it was like to give Damon a line, done like even more graphically. Man, now that we're talking about it, like this is pretty fucked up. Like the whole thing.
Also, pour one out for the random Valyrian server who was killed and burned in the fire pit to pretend to be dead Laenor.
No, man.
Nobody pays any attention to that guy.
Which we haven't even tackled Laenor. Like that. Yeah. That's a whole other.
Anyway,
it's so like basically with Nettles. I feel like talking about the subject of blood purity. Personally, I don't think you need to be a Targaryen to ride a dragon. And to go a tiny bit into your theory is like that dragons aren't magic. I think they are magic, but I think that the dragons and Targaryens having a bond, that's like magical subjugation that they did in Valyria. So like they're like a natural, in my mind, they're like a naturally occurring creature. To me, they're like the others or the giants or the children of the forest. Like they naturally occurred. Like you think of like Naga the sea dragon in the Iron Islands, like I think they existed, but then the Valyrians were like, wait, we can use this to our advantage and we have mages, so let's like bind them through fire and blood magic. And like I think part of that goes into like, I think Hallowed Harpy Chelsea on TikTok talks about this, like there's a blood bond that needs to be broken between Targaryens and dragons because they need to be free creatures. Like it's like the ultimate like a dragon is no slave type of thing. Like they need to be separated from that. But oh man, House of the Dragon, it upsets me so much. Every time I think about it, something new comes in my head and I'm like, this makes no sense. Basically, okay, part of the reason why I believe that you don't need to be a Targaryen to ride a dragon is what I said before, but also Tyrion is like so obviously going to ride a dragon in my mind that like he clearly put Nettles in the story to be like, just so you know, here's some doubt on like whether or not you really need this blood bond to get to a dragon. And I feel like Tyrion is the kind of person who is like intelligent enough to like form a bond with the dragon that requires like, he's not just gonna like do what Quentin did and just like whip Viserion, which is just the dumbest thing ever. He saw what Daenerys was doing and he thought, oh, I'll do the same thing. Like, don't you understand that dragons are different? They have different personalities. That only happened with Drogon because he's really fucking fierce. Viserion is a nice little baby girl. Leave her alone.
Viserion is my favorite.
I think too, there's so much of this like sort of confirmation bias that occurs like in the fan, and I'm experiencing it in my comment section right now. Where it's like they're like, well, you don't know what Nettles' heritage is. She was probably a dragon seed, so you do need Targaryen blood. So you do, and it's like, hold up. So the fact that I can't confirm that she's not Targaryen is enough proof that she is, like, that's crazy. First and foremost. The second thing is it's sort of like, because people are like, well, the only people that we've ever seen ride dragons are Targaryens, and it's sort of like if I was like in a modern sense, I've the only people who I've ever seen fly fighter jets are US Air Force pilots or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you don't have to be in the Air Force to fly a jet, right?
Yeah,
it's just they have them, like the US Air Force has them and they control access to them. Like they don't let anybody get on, right? Like, and it's like, so similarly, like with dragons, the crown has them all.
Like and they're not going to give them out.
At this point in history, like, and it is the whole reason they have power. So like, they're not just given dragon rides, right? Like it is controlled where it's like, hey, and you got to be a member of the royal family to even like get near one of these things. Or else you'll die. You know, it's almost like I don't know. It's like one of these, it's the same thing. It's like this myth that's passed down where it's like, if you know, it's like a cautionary tale of like, don't go near a dragon because if you're not Targaryen, they'll eat you. And we get this clear tale that is obviously meant to like just sow a little bit of doubt, right? Of like, I thought I knew how it worked and now I don't know if I know how it works. But everybody just, it looks for any reason to say like, well, no, the Targaryens like must be special. And it's like, damn, you're falling for the propaganda. Like
they're like building up. They're like, thank God it's working.
There is a section of this book, Fire and Blood. There's like a 50-page fucking section where Jaehaerys and Alicent have to fly their dragons around the country to scare people into accepting that Targaryens are exceptional. Everyone in Westeros knows it's bullshit. They all know it's bullshit.
Mhm.
But then the dragons appear, and Alicent lands Silverwing on top of the Citadel in Old Town, and she says, "Nope, we're special." And they say, "So weird. We just realized you're special. I wonder why that happened." Like they're not actually they are not actually special. They're just
Yeah.
white. They're
Yeah,
just
they're-
they're not special. They're just very blonde. That's it.
Yeah, but also like I think that's the part where like they go to like the Citadel is it the Citadel or is it like the Sept? I think it's
They
think
go
it's, like, in Old Town.
They go to Old Town, whatever the tall tower is there. I forget
Yeah,
which
the
one.
high tower.
There's a picture.
The high
Yeah,
tower,
maybe
and
it's the
then-
high tower. There's a picture of it in
then-
the.
What I love about it is that the guy, like the Septon, is like, I'm gonna pray on this for a little bit, and it's like, I think we're not gonna fight them, and it's like, yeah, you think you're not gonna fight the people who have dragons? God came to me and told me that we're not gonna fight them. Like, yeah, okay. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
you just
sure.
realized we're gonna get our asses beat.
Yeah, I think you looked out the window and said, "Oh, I don't know, it's not gonna work out to do that." Yeah,
he probably looked at the window and was like, mm-mm.
Yeah,
No.
Nah, that's too much symbolism for me. The dragon on top of the high tower. I get it. I get it.
Me and the seven took a vote, and it was 7-1. Don't fight.
Yeah.
So I got outvoted. I was also thinking too, like the other aspect of the Nettles thing that is so, and especially specifically what it seems like they're going to do with the Rhaena swap, beyond being this sort of like, like tokenism of like, oh, like, look, we included Black people, so we don't have to include this Black character. Like beyond that, there's also like the class aspect of all of this, in which like you were getting at, where it's like they've eliminated the one peasant. Like even if you say like, oh, she is a dragon seed or whatever, it's like, okay, well, it's also like the only like true sort of the person from the lower class who gets access.
The only
to
woman peasant, because we
Yeah.
get both Ulf the White and whatever the other guy's name is.
Yeah,
they weren't combined.
They could have combined them. What's the difference between? Every time I see them, I'm like, which one is which? I also have like thoughts about like whichever one is the child of Sarah. I have so many thoughts about that storylines for me, because
Hugh Hammer,
like,
they made Sarah's kid.
Hugh was his one,
some of it confuses me, because it's like it feels like they're just fucking up like cultural things for the sake of the story. Because like if he was raised by Sarah in like Lys, why is he like so like, oh my like not cool with his mom being like a sex worker? Like he's from fucking Lys, like that's like what they do there. Why is he so closed off sexually? Like that's not how it works in Essos. Why is he like, oh, I'd rather be poor in Flea Bottom than rich in Lys? What? No,
I'd rather be rich in Lys.
Are you kidding me?
Wouldn't he have grown up like in a pleasure house, right? Like,
yes. So why is he being so weird about it?
Yeah, and it would probably
point,
probably lived like very comfortably,
extremely comfortably. The way in A Dance with Dragons, when Tyrion is in Essos, literally all of his chapters are like, wow, this place is humongous. Everybody is so rich. Yeah. Westeros looks like a fucking shithole compared to this place.
Yeah.
So like, and Lisa's like the pleasure gardens. It's so beautiful. Everybody's so beautiful. Like, why would he be like, I hate this place?
Yeah.
Why does he have Westerosi cultural norms in his mind that he should not have? Like
it's even worse than that. It's like modern cultural norms.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily Westeros. It's like he developed Catholic guilt somehow. And that doesn't make any sense in the world whatsoever.
Like, it's sort of like a rejection of his mom. Like, I know but they're trying to do like a, look, mom, I got a dragon, but it's like, I also disapprove of all of your life choices. Like, what the fuck?
And it's just weird. And it's like, it feels like in a way, my mutual on Twitter, Branwen, who like, she has really good threads. She was talking about how like, someone was saying how like, oh, Hugh getting a dragon is sort of like, I guess like redemption in a way, or something like, close circle coming. I don't know what it's called. Where like he gets a dragon that sort of makes up for what happened between Jaehaerys and Sarah. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because part of the reason why Jaehaerys was such a piece of shit to Sarah is because she was a woman. Like the fact that she was promiscuous, the fact that he could not handle the fact that his daughter like had bodily autonomy. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
like if she was a man, nobody would give a shit that she slept with like 3 people. Like,
Jaehaerys
Absolutely.
especially wouldn't have given a shit.
exactly, like whatever. Like,
I
wasn't
think-
Balon
I have a
rusty?
zillion kids. Like,
Yeah. I think it's like, I think Jaehaerys would probably like be rolling in his grave if he knew the like bastard son of Sarah was riding
Yeah.
his dragon Vermithor. I like
But-
that's the only
yeah.
like irony to it, but
it would be like, it's not like redemption or like anything in that sense,
No.
because it's a man who he wouldn't have approved because he's a bastard, but like he's a man who hates his mother's occupation. Basically, what he's literally Jaehaerys writing about Vermithor. Like, how does that help Sarah at all? It would have been better if it was like Sarah's daughter just took the dragon and fucked off to Lys. That would have been more impressive.
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
no.
It's actually kind of a middle finger to his mom.
Yeah,
And
like,
yeah.
he's actually more like his
look, mom,
grandpa.
I got what you didn't get because you're a woman. How
Yeah.
about that? Like, what?
Exactly. And the adaptation, like that adaptation decision, like I thought, like I'm like, okay, and maybe we could talk about this. Like for whatever reason, House of the Dragon is decided actively that you do in fact need to be Targaryen to ride a dragon. Like they took that straight. They took that from the text and said we're applying that directly. And therefore they had to bend a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you think about it from that perspective, if you're trying to tell that story, you have to eliminate Nettles.
Yeah.
She exists in that universe.
You also have to eliminate her because there's like a whole thing where like Rhaenyra is basically like really classist and racist to Nettles, and you kind of have to like erase that. So like what they probably erased it because they're like, we don't really want to make Rhaenyra look super bad because like we have a bad track record. It's basically what happened with Daenerys in Game of Thrones. They're like really worried about like what to do with Rhaenyra, because if they do the same thing because they both reached a bad end, like it's gonna be like, well, you wasted our time again. Like, oh, so just all Targaryen women deserve to die? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I will submit a different reading for Nettles, Rhaenyra, and Daemon from Fire and Blood. This is something Gretchen and I have sort of been working out because this is the part of the story. We just did the God's Eye. I haven't posted all the episodes yet, but we just did the God's Eye, so we're kind of in that part of the book. We sort of have been reading it as not that Daemon and Nettles were lovers at all, but that Daemon was training her because she was a new dragon rider, and they were sort of bringing her into the fold, because this would have been after the betrayal at Tumbleton, where the other 2 bastard dragon riders turned on them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, okay, we have to make sure she's like on side. And so we're going to train her in courtesies, and we're going to make sure she knows how to do these things. And she's part of us. She's a dragon rider. She's part of us. And that Rhaenyra never sent a letter saying like, take off her head or whatever. That at the time, the small folk of King's Landing were very afraid of bastards because of what had happened at Tumbleton. They were very afraid of the dragon seeds. So Rhaenyra sent Nettles and Adam away. And that's why they escaped and didn't get killed. So you could if 2 like moops on the internet can come up with that from reading the text, the professional writers at House of the Dragon could figure it out.
That's what gets me. Like, people, when I was making my video about how like Aegon and Rhaenyra, it's been like 2 seasons, and like people like straight up forget that they're siblings, and like they really don't, like really just all the siblings in general. It gets to a point where people are like, oh, they're high towers. It's like, no, they're also Targaryens. Like, that's the point. They're cannibalizing themselves. Like, there's a giant dragon called the Cannibal that is black and has green eyes, and it's eating young dragons. What, like,
you get it? It's themes. Do you get it?
Themes are not for 8th grade book reports. Like, this is what I mean. Like, George is not, like, people act like George is like a really like a trickster. Like, it's really unsubtle to have a giant dragon called the Cannibal that eats other dragons. That is the color of like both sides.
The 2, and like, yeah. Well, and it's funny because I don't know, because we've just spent how much time talking about sibling dynamic and in the Targaryen family, and how much more compelling of a show does House of the Dragon become if it is a conflict between brother and sister versus like having to age down Allison and like having to like fuck with the timeline and do all of this other stuff. Like, and they're like, oh, well, now we had to compress, and we had to do this, and we had to do that. It's like, no, you made all
you
those
didn't have
decisions.
to do that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's fiction. You can do whatever you want. It's fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you emphasize the dynamic between Rhaenyra and Aegon, then it makes the story that's in the book easy to pay off. right? Like
Mhm.
in terms of like the actual through line of the story of the dance,
Yeah.
like that payoff of that scene, back in King's Landing becomes very like hit like red wedding level, like
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Where now it's gonna be like, wait, what the fuck? Have they spoken?
Have they ever
Like-
spoken?
No.
I think the writers thought they had to pick either Rhaenyra versus Alicent or Rhaenyra versus Aegon. And I will not knock them for the Alicent Rhaenyra thing because I love that and I love my queer tension. Like I'm here
Yeah.
for it.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
the actors are fantastic together, so I'm here
Yeah.
for that. But you could do both.
Yeah,
You
they
have
could do
many
both.
you have many millions of dollars. You could do both.
Yeah.
Just do both things.
Yeah.
Maybe, cut off the white and instead do Aegon and Rhaenyra. Like,
Yeah.
you can figure it out. Also, HBO will literally give you like as much time that you want because this is a money making show. So
Yeah.
do both.
It's just so weird to me because I feel like the show is missing the point of the tragedy of like so much. Like, yes, like obviously there's like multiple themes and messages in the story, but it really is very sad that like a brother and sister and aunts and uncles and cousins and nephews and are all like killing each other for this ugly ass chair.
Yeah.
That doesn't, but also there's also the theme of like misogyny. They're only really doing this because like she's a woman. Like nobody would care at all about the bad stuff that she does because like we've had way worse kings. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
But like to me, like the fact that they have no interactions, like not even like a Rhaenyra seeing Aegon being born, like first seeing him when he first born, like, oh my god, this is my little brother, or him trying to say her name. Or there was a scene like where he was trying to say her name and like they cut it, which is like, what? Okay, I guess they just don't matter. Like you know that this conflict ends with them, like the two of them act like clashing like this. Why would you not have them have interactions? And like the idea like, oh, they have an age gap. You can even have people talk about these characters like they're real people and not characters in the story. Like they are vehicles to communicate something to you. Okay. You can have like teenage Aegon and older Rhaenyra try to have a conversation and maybe they have an awkward conversation because they don't really know each other like that. Maybe because Viserys is a shit dad to like, he has like 5 kids and he's only really a semi-decent dad to one of them. That could be the reason why they're not close. Or Alicent putting stuff in Aegon's ear. Bring all that up, but they don't. They're just like, well, they don't talk because like they don't talk.
Yeah. I think they literally like they've been in scenes together.
Yeah, they've been in the same room, but don't talk.
That they've never spoken. Yeah. Which like you could easily work that kind of stuff in with like they're both at the small council.
Well, Aegon and Larys will stop by Dragonstone on their way to Bravos next season. So
yeah, that's gonna happen for sure.
They'll pop in for a secret meeting.
I did want to make one more point about the Nettles swap, the Nettles Rhaena swap, because this is actually a parallel to another swap that happened in the bad show Game of Thrones. And just slight trigger warning for audience every time I talk about SA here, we're going to talk about Sansa Stark being swapped in for Jane Poole.
Yes.
Because very similar situation where in the story, Jane Poole, who is a small folk adjacent.
She's like a smaller house.
It's like a steward. It's like they're stewards.
Yeah, they're stewards
type deal. So they like are, so they work for the Starks, but they're noble enough to have a last name.
Yeah.
That's what
they're
still
like a relatively like small house.
Yeah. Jane Poole is the one that is married to Ramsay and is abused by Ramsay and is ultimately saved by Theon. And a big part of that story is that nobody cares about Jane Poole. And a big part of that story is that because she is a woman in the society who doesn't have a title or anything, any way to tease out agency, she's trapped. And there's all these lords who could do something, but won't do anything because of classism, right? And they all know something wrong is happening. D&D and Brian Cogman, the menace Brian Cogman, said in would have been season 5, episode 5, Unbound but Unbroken, when they married Sansa to Ramsay instead, and had the same plot happen, that Sansa was trapped and being attacked by Ramsay and no one was doing anything. They said that they basically plugged Sansa in because that was the character we were invested in, and completely missed the fact that they were implying that like women are interchangeable SA dolls. That like, oh, a woman gets assaulted, another woman can get assaulted in her place. That's fine. That's the same story. It is not the same story And it's doesn't in that case with Sansa and Jane Poole, putting Sansa in that position made it make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because Sansa Stark is someone the North would absolutely rally for and would prevent that kind of thing for. They wouldn't for Jane Poole. That's part of the sadness and the despair and the irony of it. So it's a similar concept. If Rhaena ends up getting plugged in for Nettles, we're missing the classism. We're missing the blood purity commentary. We're missing the commentary on the intelligence of the small folk. And the fact that Nettles saw an opportunity and took it and did great. None of that comes if it's Rhaena instead.
Yeah.
It's not the same story at all.
That's also something I really hate about like the whole switching Jane with Sansa, because to me, what I love so much about that Theon Jane plotline is that like Jane is like a reference to like all the women in the Song of Ice and Fire, the small folk who like that happens to them. That's happening to them all the time.
Yeah.
In the War of the Five Kings. And how many of them nobody cares? Like nobody's saving them. Like think about the girl that got assaulted by the mountain because like the dad annoyed her. Like she's like a story that we hear about, but there's probably so many stories and nobody cares about her because she's like, well, Arya cared about her, thank God. Nobody cares about her because she's like doesn't have an important name. So, and like the idea that Theon saving Sansa because he's like, oh, I need to make it up to the Starks what I did, feels less impactful than Theon saving Jane because he's the only person who knows that Jane is Jane. It means so much to me because like he's the only one who like can actually see her. And the fact that and like even when they talk about wanting to save Jane as Arya, they're always saying Ned's girl. She's not even Arya to these people. Like it's just Ned's girl. She's an extension of Ned, who was a man who was the Lord of Winterfell. That's why we need to save her, not because she's like a girl being brutally assaulted by a freak. Like she's somebody related. She's related to somebody important. Therefore, we need to care about her. And it's like it's just lost when you just make her like, oh, it's Sansa now. Also, like Littlefinger would never let go of Sansa. What?
Yeah, no, I mean D&D didn't read the books, so they don't understand. They read the Wikipedia page and they went with that. But yeah, it worries me to see that same kind of pattern in House of the Dragon. Because I really liked House of the Dragon season 1.
I liked it too. Like I had issues, but I liked it.
Yeah. There were times in season 1 where I'm like, oh, they're cooking, because I was like, they're about to go. I thought we were getting Maester Hightower conspiracy. I thought we were getting like there was all kinds of shit that I'm like, oh, they're really like they're going for it. Like they're taking big swings. And it was crazy because they set up a bunch of stuff in season 1 that they just decided to not pay off like ever. And they decided to run with a lot of stuff. Like obviously, I'm not going to rehash all of season 2, but they just made a bunch of decisions where it was like they had all these setups. Like the Maester Hightower one just like pops to mind, where it's like Emma Aaron's death is that is straight up a murder that occurs. Like the way it's shot and the way that they set that up, the Maester is like, I'm gonna kill her.
Yeah.
And it's like Otto is like having conversations, and then it's the Maester who like prompts Otto to say like, hey, I think it's time to get remarried, Viserys, and like, what about my daughter? And it's like, and they're like planting all these seeds and then just never talk about it again. Like there's never, they're like abandoned plot line completely. Like, just don't worry about it. It was nothing.
Why would you follow up with something? That's so weird. It's a weird concept. I think whoever wrote the scenes with Alicent in the lake should go to jail for at least a few days.
Yes.
I as a criminal defense attorney, I can say we use jail too much. The carceral system is bad, but as long as we have it,
jail.
We should use it more frequently for things like this. I think at least a 7 to 10 day sentence for that. Like who was like, I have an idea. We're going to take Olivia and we're going to put her in a pool. It's going to be so deep and meaningful. And then what second person was like fucking brilliant? Shoot that. Like who did this? Who did this?
They know what's going to happen. They know the major important plot beats. So they should know like, okay, something big is going to happen in season 3. Certain people are going to die. Maybe we should have a lot of heavy focus on the people who are gonna die.
Hey.
Maybe we should focus on the characters who are there. Like, I don't know, all of Rhaenyra's children. Nope, we don't care about them. Also, how is this gonna work? The dragons are way smaller. How are they gonna get out of there? They're gonna change it. I don't know.
Yeah. But did you see these eggs? These are definitely the eggs that Daenerys had, and not the eggs that Alyssa Farman stole in the past. God damn it. Have you guys read Fire and Blood?
Do you know what's so crazy? I just saw an interview where like it was the director talking and Ryan Condal, and the director was like, "These are Daenerys' eggs," and then Ryan Condal was like, "No, they're not Daenerys' eggs." And I'm like, "You guys don't even have a rapport? Like,
have y'all met? Like,
did you meet? Like,
their inside the episode shit is criminal. They shouldn't be allowed to do those.
It's so much of what they have is just like it's really fan fiction in the sense of like, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Wouldn't it be cool if Rhaenys stormed this dragon pit and killed thousands of people and nobody ever talks about it again? It would be cool as shit.
They mourn Mellies the next season. The small folk are like, oh no, a dead dragon is they like are not happy about it. And it's like, if like their whole family got killed by that dragon bursting through the floor, would they not be fucking cheering, like going absolutely apeshit for
also,
that dead dragon?
Not to be like super nitpicky and nerdy about it, but y'all know what happens at the dragon pit eventually. And what happens at the dragon pit involves the ceiling collapsing and doing damage. So you're telling me that
breaking in
at that point, that's when the concrete's going to matter, but this concrete didn't matter. Maybe this concrete was not the Valonqar. I'm sorry.
After Meleys broke that concrete, they made stronger concrete, and that concrete actually can hurt dragons.
Okay, boom. That's it. Fixed it. Plot hole closed. Why am I even complaining?
Plot hole paved with concrete. I like, yeah. So I just think in terms of the shows, the real thing here is that it would be fine. Like, there are a lot of changes, and I think the fandom has often shown like that you're willing to accept like change in the service of the story, and if it's still telling the same story with the same themes that the original story holds. Like, if you change superficial details in the interest of telling a tighter version of the same story, and it is actually like conveying the same message, that's one thing. But when you just like completely undermine the message of the whole thing, like this has been a recent conversation with like doing these monologues on TikTok or whatever, like reading the monologues, the broken man speech, like a lot of people have had their say, and there are a handful of people who are like, well, Brother Ray, like Ian McShane or whatever, like did a version of it or whatever. And I was like, yeah, he said some of it. Definitely not. It definitely didn't get across, like, and definitely didn't hit in the way that the actual full speech does from Stephanie Maribald. And then the Brotherhood Without Banners goes and murders all of those people. So
oh no, not their happy Shire. How could this happen? Did you know bad things happen in this show?
So it's like we read the Broken Man speech and we missed the whole fucking point. Like and then we killed the guy who said it, like with the people who it's about. Like, it's just so crazy. I don't know. It was.
They were like this. They're like, wow, cool. Put that in the scene and then kill all of them.
Yeah. Like, we want Ian McShane dangling from the.
Wouldn't it be so dark and gritty and cool?
It would be
if
so
they all
dark
died.
And cool. Yeah,
that's real life.
Bad things happen. Did you know?
And then we said,
what's that quote from the Hounds? If you thought this had a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. Oh, it was Ramsay. I'm sorry.
Oh god.
Just like, why are we listening to Ramsay?
That was in every trailer.
Why is
trailer?
Why is Ramsay breaking the fourth wall right now? Like, what the fuck? He's just scary, straight down camera. Like, well, and then out of all of that, they use it as an impetus to send the Hound back out into the war, right? Like, where the Broken Man speech is like actually like it's obviously like this very thematic like thing, and it's about Sandor Clegane, like like specifically, right? It's telling his actual story of a guy who fought 100 battles and in the 101st broke, right? Like he's not there, like he is not the Hound anymore. And he even references like outlaws are more like this ravening hound or whatever when he's talking about Rorge. who has the Hound's helmet, who is the one who did the massacre at Salt Pans and all this stuff.
Mhm.
Like, he's not even, the Hound isn't even the Hound anymore in the speech, right? Like, and that's like a big part of it too, where it's like Sandor Clegane, as we know him, like, doesn't exist. He's broken. Like, it's over.
But wouldn't it be cool if just before Sandor fights his brother and kills him by throwing him off of a ledge into fire, he turns around and hands Arya Stark her thematic plot, and she escapes.
Yeah,
and then he does the
Which
cool, and then he does a cool fight.
She runs right past Gregor Clegane or Robert Strong, whatever.
That scene is so dumb.
She says, "Thank you for the theme, sir," and then she leaves.
Here's why that scene is so fucking stupid. She literally already murdered all of House Frey. She did her revenge thing. So why is he telling her this now? She already did the thing. So it's fine. Also, Wyman Manderly's whole like Frey pie thing way cooler. The fact that it's so cool that like, well, I just love when characters like they take advantage of how people perceive them. Like, oh, everybody thinks I'm fat and stupid, and I play into that. But also, I'm actually secretly murdering children. But
and
it's
eating them.
Feeding them to their family.
He's like, oh, you're afraid. Oh, he died. It's better that he died because he would have grown up to be afraid. So kind of a win. I don't know.
No, they again, I'm telling you, they read the Wikipedia page and they said Frey pie, got it, check, done.
She sneaks in, faceless man. The faceless men are totally cool with her leaving with their powers, right? Like, just
they're like, yeah, cool.
You didn't have to join or anything.
Getting a face isn't even the same in the show. Like, it's like a whole thing. You'd like to like cut like the sides of her face and then put the face on, and it like hurts. It's like a bunch of stuff, and they're just like, no, it's just a mask.
It's just a spooky, scary mask. And
she got stabbed like 50 times, like John did. Lived.
Remember when she got stabbed in the tummy and then jumped into like the disease-ridden canal? And then she parkoured through the city a bit. Remember that?
She didn't even learn anything from them to have all the skills that she has. Like, she fights Brienne and beats Brienne, which is insane. Don't ever disrespect Brienne of Tarth like that. To have her lose to Arya, like she didn't even. All she did was fight with like sticks and become blind.
She beat Loras Tyrell.
And they have her beating Brienne. I'm like,
come on.
It's that water dancing, man. That was some pretty intense stuff. But and,
like I can understand maybe like evading Brienne, like maybe she can evade her because she's tiny and she's fast, but actually like getting a hit on her, like I'm sorry, Brienne would absolutely pummel the shit out of Arya in a fight.
Exactly.
Not to power scale, but like she's extremely strong.
She is, yes. She's a much higher level.
Not to use literary terminology, but they were foreshadowing Arya killing the Night King because they showed the switch of.
Oh,
she drops the dagger from one hand to the other, and they foreshadowed.
They didn't foreshadow it enough though, because they didn't show her doing a half-court dunk. Like they didn't show her flying, and then switching. They should have done that to foreshadow.
That scene where they have Melisandre say, "You shut many eyes, you shut green eyes, and this eyes, and you'll shut blue eyes too." And it's like that's supposed to be the foreshadowing. She's gonna kill the Night King. I'm like, don't piss me off. You know damn well it was supposed to be Jon fighting that guy. Stop playing with me.
The prince that was promised was apparently Arya Stark.
I can't believe they made him like a legitimate Targaryen, and they were like, and also I made a video about this where the scene where they send him like beyond the wall makes me so upset because why the fuck is there still a wall? Did they not take it? Like, look, that's a really big deal.
They only had the budget to show a small section crumbling, okay? They couldn't show the whole... You don't understand how long it would take to render all of that ice coming down. Like, they had to just a tiny bit.
Why do they go through a door when, like, there's an entire chunk of the wall just gone? Like, just go through that part. Like, also, like, why would he just... Like, I don't understand, like, why... I feel like a big part of the series to me is that, like, they're much stronger together than separate. Like the whole, like everybody's so far apart. I feel like the way the factions and like the kingdoms of Westeros, the way they are now, is very similar to how it was like before Aegon the Conqueror came, where like everybody was fighting with everybody constantly all the time. And that's kind of what it's like now. And I think the point is like, no, guys, we shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be fighting the ice zombies that are coming. But after they fight the ice zombies, they're just like back to being completely separate. The wildlings fuck off back to wherever they're going. Like maybe some of them want to integrate. No, I don't know.
That's always, I don't know, to me that's always like such a clear thing to write, like this sort of false division of humanity, and like the thing that connects us being our humanity, and that being a realization of like the whole point of this existential crisis is like, this is our strength, and our like strength in, you know, the fact that we don't divide each other by some made up imaginary line that someone drew 1,000 years ago or 8,000 years ago or whatever.
Can I jump in, because I'm vibrating with themes right now?
Do it.
Yes.
The theme I've been tracking through mostly through Fire and Blood, but through I think it's a through line through George's work, is disempowerment of one disempowers us all. So the idea that if you, like you're saying, if you separate and you subjugate, that makes everybody weaker.
Yeah.
And you can see that through the Targaryen dynasty. Like we were talking about how women in a Targaryen family lose power over time, and the Targaryens lose power over time, and ultimately their house falls, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of what we're going to see, assuming we get the books, is
I have hope always. The books.
I too. I maintain the optimism. I'll maintain the optimism. I think what we're going to see is exactly that people will have to come together as one unit to fight the others, and it's not going to matter whether you're highborn, lowerborn, Targaryen, etc.
Yeah,
like you need to be part of this to protect humanity, which is part of why I think blood purity is bullshit, because blood purity would be like one of those lines that would separate people and be like, oh, these people are better than you naturally. And that's so incongruent with the other themes in all of the novels. So I'm sorry, I'm done. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That's my favorite.
I agree about the themes of like blood purity, because I do think like, because we get so much Targaryen stuff that like people focus on the Targaryens a lot, which makes sense. Like they had the dynasty for 300 years and they had giant dragons, but like the idea of like we're above people, like, and like a lot of the bad things that happen to House Targaryen are kind of because they assimilated into Westerosi culture. Like before, you think about the Freehold and the way Freeholds work. And if you think about Daenerys the Dreamer, the fact that her father listened to her about the dragon dream is like, I don't think that would ever happen like when the Targaryens are in Westeros, where they would just listen to a dreamer. Like they're as a woman.
Or a daughter. Can you imagine Jaehaerys listening to a daughter? He'd be like, what are you doing in my room? Please go elsewhere.
Go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And you think about and like as you said about like Visenya and Rhaenys, like they were literally running King's Landing. They came up with so many ideas, like the like it's just, and if you think about even up until like Queen Alysanne, after that it's like they're like fuck women, really. Like when she was doing like her like it's not Table of Ladies, but like she goes around to like different places. She goes to like the small folk. She goes to Molestown, and the guy, like the Night's Watch guy, is like, "What? We don't go. There's no brothel." Like she's like, "Shut up, just take me to Molestown, okay?" And like she's talking to the women. She hears that story about how like the right of the first night, and she abolishes that. Like that's like, I think the term is like proto-feminism, like feminism before like it even like it's like a thing in Song of Ice and Fire, where like she's like, this is wrong, and she has to really argue her case with Jaehaerys and like other people. Like, can you like what, like if this happened to me, like what would you do? He's like, I would kill the guy. She's like, yeah. Or when she's like with the thing of when they didn't have like clean drinking water for the small folk, and she literally was like, drink it then. And they're like, okay.
She went and got some, and she's like, that's what you're drinking. And Jaehaerys said, yes, dear. I will fix the water fountains.
And like the fact that she was like, oh, she didn't get to do this, but like the fact that she was like, oh, I think women should be able to become maesters too. Like, what is the difference? Like, they just read books. Like, I read books all the time. But like, I don't know, like, I feel like if they just like listen to Targaryen women more, I feel like a lot of bad stuff would have happened less. Like, obviously, feudalism still, bad shit would have happened. Like, you're not just automatically better because you're like a woman. That's like just bioessentialism. But like, if they just like listen to the dreamers, like the women dreamers specifically, because it feels like all the male dreamers either go insane or are just like not interpreting anything correctly, whereas the female dreamers just like kind of just get it. Like Daenerys the dreamer understood her visions. Rhaena, people like assume she was a dreamer because she was the one who decided to put the eggs in the cradle and do the cradle like thing, which is like, why would you do that? Maybe she saw something. I don't know. I just assume she was a dreamer because she had dream fire. And then Daenerys, like with her dragon dreams in the first book, she like interprets them correctly enough to know, okay, I have to go into this pyre and like do this stuff, and it'll happen. But they just don't like. I feel like the more they get separated from magic in the world, the more bad happens. I kind of hate the theory that like at the end of the series, like magic will just like disappear from the world? Because I feel like
I've heard that theory too, and I don't have strong opinions on it either way. I don't really see why it would disappear.
it feels like a very human-like to be like anything that isn't other to us needs to disappear completely. So like the idea that like the children of the forest, the giants, although races that probably existed even before that we don't know about, even dragons. I think dragons are magical.
And even like dire wolves and stuff.
Dire
like that.
wolves.
Yeah.
I think the others too. I think there's way more to the others than just like ice zombie shit. Like they have a language. They wear like armor and have swords. It's like the idea that like, oh well, we should just get rid of anything that's other than us. I'm like, that seems like the antithesis of what the story is about. I think we're gonna be if we know that Bran is gonna be king and he's like one of the most magical people in the story, I don't think it's gonna be like, and that's it. He's just the only magical person. Everybody else, no magic. That seems still like supremacy to me.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or it's like in the far future, like it turns out it is just Earth, and this was some far past of like, and he's just like, and now we cut to fucking Iowa or whatever. Like,
it's 2020.
Yeah.
And here I am going to work in an office. Really?
Yeah.
All this shit happened with dragons, and now I have to work 40
and that's
hours.
how magic went out of our world or whatever. Like,
yeah. Oh, that's
Bran
actually
became
really
king, and now you have to go log into fucking Slack or whatever.
Yeah, now I have to pay taxes.
Get on your Zoom.
Yeah.
Go to class. It cuts to like to a descendant of Bran, like on a Zoom class, like in college, like
yeah.
A raven lands on his windowsill. I'm starting to think up more stuff for that, but the thing I can
David
say.
Backfire.
Oh, was that me that I was?
Nah, it was
okay.
Constantine James. It was
Oh
else.
yeah. Okay. A shout out to Constantine as well. I would say there's been a couple of people that we've talked about that I have actually talked about coming on this podcast as well. So stay tuned for more guests.
More friends.
And I think like so go there. I'm doing a bunch of random stuff now that people apparently are liking. So and mostly the stuff that I've enjoyed has been just reading stuff from the books and doing my stupid voices and like my fake audiobook. So anyways, that's about it in A Song of Ice and Fireland right now. But Belak, where can they find you?
Primarily TikTok at Belak, nice and easy. I'm also on Blue Sky Belak, nice and easy there. The project I'm mostly working on now is I'm writing a zombie science fiction story, which I've been posting to Substack, and I post updates on Blue Sky. So if you guys want to find it, that's the best way to get there. It's called Cataclysm, and I'm having a jolly good time writing it. So it's been fun. There's been themes.
It's a fun read too.
Oh my gosh, have you been following it? Thank you.
I have.
Everybody who reads it, I'm like, thank you so much.
I get it in my email.
See, this is why you got to sign up for Substack. It's nice and easy. It just emails it to you.
Yep.
Did you get the art in the email too? Because my artist has been doing the stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
He's
very cool.
And you guys can support a real artist and not an AI artist. A real artist who is my friend, who I do pay for making that art. So.
Paying a human to do art.
I pay a human to do art.
It's an old-fashioned concept. Well, if you guys have enjoyed, please do all of the things that help boost us on the algorithm and all that stuff. But like and subscribe, and we'll be chatting to you soon. This is a two-parter, so you're either seeing this is either the end of part 1 or part 2. It'll probably be at the end of both. And we'll be back pretty soon with some other stuff, and we'll be getting ready to start the Sworn Sword for our read along again. So very much looking forward to that. So
and if anybody wants to contact us, if you want to come on the show, now you see it's safe. We're friendly.
It's safe.
Feli, I hope you had a good time. We had a great time having you. You got to come back. You definitely got to come back.
Absolutely
for future episodes.
People with brains to talk about A Song of Ice and Fire with. Oh my God, how rare.
Oh my God, you said I have a brain. I'm so. Oh, thank you. That is a great compliment coming from you. Thank you very much. So everybody else who's watching, if you're interested in coming on, if you're interested in fighting us on here too, I mean, I love a good debate. That's fine. We don't have to agree on everything. You could just comment or reach out to us, and we could certainly set that up. So a cool 3 hours into this podcast, I think we're done.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.